There's a line no defendant should ever cross in a courtroom, a boundary that separates bad judgment from criminal contempt, a threshold beyond which there's no coming back. Baron Trump crossed that line on a Thursday afternoon when he stood in my courtroom, looked me directly in the eye, and threatened me with White House connections while his father was still the sitting president of the United States. I've been threatened before, angry defendants promising revenge, claiming they know people, insisting they'll have my job. But this was different. This wasn't empty bluster from a desperate criminal. This was the 18-year-old son of the sitting president, surrounded by Secret Service agents, backed by the full power of the executive branch, telling me that if I didn't dismiss his charges, his father would make calls and I'd regret it. What I did in the next 17 minutes became a constitutional crisis that reached the Supreme Court, sparked impeachment discussions in Congress, and proved that in America, even presidential power has limits when it threatens judicial independence. Baron Trump, 18 years old, still technically a minor, but being tried as an adult, stood accused of assault, destruction of property, and underage drinking. According to the police report and multiple witness statements, Barron had been at a house party in Providence hosted by a Brown University student whose parents were major Trump donors when he'd gotten drunk and violent. When another guest, Michael Chen, a 19-year-old Brown sophomore, accidentally spilled a drink on Barron's designer jacket, Barron had punched him in the face, breaking his nose. Then Barron had destroyed Michael's laptop, throwing it against a wall because Michael had recorded video of the assault on it. The charges were serious enough, but what made this case unprecedented was what happened when I denied Barron's attorney's motion to dismiss. That's when Barron himself stood up, brushed off his attorney's attempt to restrain him, and said words that no judge in American history had heard before. "Judge Caprio, you need to understand something. My father is the President of the United States right now, today. He has the power to make phone calls that change people's lives. He can make you famous or he can make you disappear. Dismiss these charges or you'll find out exactly what presidential power means." The courtroom went silent. Secret Service agents shifted uncomfortably. Barron's attorneys looked horrified, and I sat there processing the fact that I'd just been directly threatened by the sitting president's son in open court. If you believe that judicial independence is sacred, that no president's child should threaten judges, that democracy dies when the executive branch intimidates the judiciary, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I did next defended the Constitution itself and proved that no amount of presidential power can corrupt American justice. "Mr. Trump," I began, my voice deadly calm, "before we address your criminal charges, we need to address what you just said. You stood in my courtroom and threatened me with presidential retaliation if I don't dismiss your charges. Do you understand what you just did?" Barron stood there, 6 feet 7 inches of teenage arrogance, clearly believing his father's position made him untouchable. "Your Honor, I'm not threatening you. I'm stating facts. My father is the most powerful man in the world. He protects his family. You're making a decision right now about whether you want to be someone he protects or someone he doesn't." His lead attorney, Theodore Lawson, jumped up. "Your Honor, my client is 18 years old and speaking under extreme stress. He didn't mean—" "Your client meant exactly what he said, Counselor. He just threatened a sitting judge with presidential retaliation in open court, on the record. Sit down." I turned to Barron. "Mr. Trump, I'm going to give you one opportunity to retract that statement and apologize to this court. If you do so now, we'll proceed with your criminal case. If you don't, I'll hold you in contempt, and we'll add witness intimidation and obstruction of justice to your charges." Barron looked at his attorneys, who were frantically shaking their heads, silently begging him to apologize. Then he looked back at me, and what he said next changed everything. "I'm not apologizing. You heard me correctly. My father runs this country. He picks judges. He can unpick them too. You're an elected municipal judge in Providence, Rhode Island. You think you matter? You think you can touch me? My father makes one call to the governor, one call to the state Supreme Court, and you're done. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to dismiss these ridiculous charges. I'm going to walk out of here, and we're all going to forget this happened, or my father picks up the phone." The courtroom erupted. Reporters were typing frantically. Barron's attorneys had their heads in their hands. Secret Service agents were speaking urgently into radios. This was beyond anything they'd trained for, and I sat there realizing that what happened in the next few minutes would define whether American democracy could withstand direct presidential intimidation of the judiciary. I stood up slowly. Officer D'Angelo, place Mr. Trump under arrest immediately for criminal contempt of court, witness intimidation, and threatening a judicial officer. Barron's face went from confident to shocked. What? You can't arrest me, I have Secret Service protection. I looked at the Secret Service agents. Agents, your job is to protect Mr. Trump from threats to his physical safety. You do not protect him from lawful arrest for crimes committed in open court. If you interfere with this arrest, you'll be charged with obstruction of justice. Step aside. The lead Secret Service agent, a man who'd clearly never been in this position before, spoke into his radio. A tense 30 seconds passed, then he stepped back. We're not interfering with lawful judicial proceedings. We'll remain nearby to ensure Mr. Trump's safety while in custody. Barron's confidence shattered. You can't do this. My father's the president. He'll, what, Mr. Trump? Use presidential power to interfere with a criminal prosecution? That would be obstruction of justice, potentially an impeachable offense. Is that what you're threatening? Theodore Lawson was on his feet. Your Honor, I request an immediate recess. This situation has escalated beyond denied. Your client threatened me with presidential retaliation. That's a crime. He's being arrested. Officer D'Angelo, proceed. My bailiff approached Barron carefully. Mr. Trump, please place your hands behind your back. Barron looked around desperately. Somebody call my father. Call the White House. They can't do this. Mr. Trump, I said, your father cannot help you right now. You committed crimes in my courtroom. You threatened the judge. You're being held accountable. As Officer D'Angelo handcuffed Barron, the teenager's arrogance finally cracked completely. This is illegal. You're violating my rights. My father will hear about this. I'm counting on it, Mr. Trump, because your father needs to understand that presidential power doesn't extend to threatening judges. And if he attempts to interfere with your prosecution, he'll be the one facing constitutional consequences. Barron was led toward the holding cells, still shouting, You're making the biggest mistake of your life. My father doesn't forget. The Trump family doesn't forget. The door closed behind him. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. I turned to Theodore Lawson. Counselor, your client just threatened me with presidential retaliation twice. Once might be youthful stupidity. Twice is a pattern of behavior. I'm remanding him into custody without bail pending psychiatric evaluation. Your Honor, he's the president's son. He has no criminal record. Bail is constitutionally... Your client threatened a judge with presidential power, Counselor. He's a flight risk with unlimited resources and access to presidential protection. He's demonstrated contempt for the judicial process. And most importantly, he's shown he believes his father will use executive power to interfere with his prosecution. Under those circumstances, bail is denied. I looked at the prosecutor. Miss Chen, contact the Rhode Island Attorney General immediately. Inform him that the president's son has been arrested for threatening a judicial officer and that there may be implications for executive interference with the judiciary. Also, contact the FBI. Threatening a federal judge is a federal crime, and while I'm a state judge, the involvement of presidential power suggests federal jurisdiction may be appropriate. Jennifer Chen nodded, already on her phone. I looked at the Secret Service agents. Agents, Mr. Trump is now in the custody of the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. He may maintain a protective detail, but he's subject to the same conditions as any other inmate. No special treatment, no special privileges. Is that understood? The lead agent nodded grimly. Understood, Your Honor. If you believe that presidents cannot threaten judges through their children, that the separation of powers must be defended even against the executive branch, share this video right now, because what happened next tested American democracy at its foundation. I turned to Michael Chen, the victim, who'd been sitting quietly throughout all of this. Mr. Chen, please approach. He walked forward, his nose still bandaged from where Barron had broken it. Mr. Chen, I apologize that the focus has shifted from your assault to this constitutional crisis, but I want you to know that justice will still be served. Tell me what happened at that party. His voice was quiet but steady. Your Honor, I'm a sophomore at Brown studying computer science. I was at a party hosted by a classmate. Baron Trump was there with some friends. The party was crowded. I was carrying a drink when someone bumped into me. The drink splashed onto Baron's jacket, just a few drops. I immediately apologized. I said, "I'm so sorry. Let me help clean it." He paused. Baron looked at me and said, "Do you know how much this jacket costs? More than your family makes in a year?" I apologized again. I offered to pay for dry cleaning. That's when he punched me right in the face. I felt my nose break, blood everywhere. I fell to the ground. I had my phone out. I'd been taking photos at the party. I tried to record what was happening because I was scared and wanted evidence. Baron saw me recording. He grabbed my laptop from my backpack. It was a MacBook Pro I'd saved for 2 years to buy, and threw it against the wall. It shattered. All my classwork, my projects, everything was on it. Michael's voice broke. Then Baron said, "You think you can record me? I'm Baron Trump. My father is the president. I can do whatever I want, and nobody can stop me." He kicked me while I was on the ground. Then he walked out while I lay there bleeding. Tears filled his eyes. "Your Honor, I am an immigrant. I came to America from China when I was 10. My parents saved everything to give me opportunities. I worked so hard to get into Brown, and Baron Trump broke my nose and destroyed my computer because I accidentally spilled a few drops of a drink on his jacket. Then he told me his father's power meant he could do whatever he wanted." The courtroom was silent. I looked at the empty chair where Baron had been sitting before his arrest. "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry for what happened to you. Baron Trump assaulted you, destroyed your property, and believed his father's position exempted him from consequences. Today, he learned he was wrong. You will receive justice." I looked at Jennifer Chen. "Miss Chen, in addition to the original charges of assault and destruction of property, add the new charges: criminal contempt of court, witness intimidation, threatening a judicial officer, and obstruction of justice. When Baron Trump is arraigned on these new charges, recommend no bail based on his threats of presidential interference." "Yes, Your Honor." Within 1 hour, the story broke nationally. President's son arrested for threatening judge. Cable news exploded. Constitutional scholars debated separation of powers. The White House press secretary was bombarded with questions. That evening, President Trump tweeted, "My son Baron was illegally arrested by a rogue judge who is clearly biased against our family. This is the deep state attacking my family. Baron did nothing wrong. I will use every legal means to protect my son from this witch hunt." The next morning, I received a phone call from the Attorney General of the United States. "Judge Caprio, the president is considering using executive clemency to pardon his son for any federal charges related to this case." "General," I said carefully, "Baron Trump is charged with state crimes in Rhode Island State Court. The president has no pardon power over state charges. If he attempts to interfere with this prosecution, he'll be obstructing justice. The president believes his son's rights are being violated. The president's son threatened me with presidential retaliation in open court. That's a crime. If the president uses his power to interfere, that's another crime. I suggest you explain that to him." 3 days later, Baron appeared before me for his bail hearing on the expanded charges. His attorney filed a motion to dismiss based on judicial bias, arguing that my decision to arrest Baron proved I was biased against him. "Mr. Lawson," I said, "your client threatened me with presidential retaliation. I arrested him for that crime. That's not bias. That's judicial duty." Motion denied. "Mr. Trump, you're remanded into custody without bail until trial. The charges against you include threatening a judicial officer with presidential interference. You're a flight risk with unlimited resources and clear contempt for the judicial process." Baron sat there in an orange jumpsuit, no longer arrogant, looking like what he actually was, an 18-year-old who'd made a catastrophic mistake. "Mr. Trump, you told me your father runs this country and could unpick judges. You told me I'd regret not dismissing your charges. You said your father would make calls that would make me disappear. Those statements constitute direct threats against judicial independence. That's not just a crime. That's an attack on the Constitution itself. Here's what's going to happen. You will remain in custody until trial. You will be tried on all charges: the original assault and destruction of property, plus the new charges of contempt, witness intimidation, threatening a judicial officer, and obstruction of justice. If convicted, you'll face significant prison time. And Mr. Trump, if your father attempts to interfere with this prosecution, if he calls the governor, if he pressures the attorney general, if he uses any presidential power to obstruct justice, I will personally refer the matter to Congress for impeachment proceedings because no president, no matter how powerful, is allowed to corrupt the judicial system to protect his children. Barron's voice was small, broken. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I was scared and I said stupid things. I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you said, Mr. Trump. You've spent 18 years watching your father use power to get what he wants. You learned that the Trump name means you don't face consequences. Today, you learned you were wrong. 6 weeks later, Barron pled guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 2 years in state prison with credit for time served. Michael Chen received $50,000 in restitution, and the constitutional crisis ended when President Trump's attorneys advised him that any interference would result in obstruction charges. 1 year later, after President Trump left office, I received a letter from Barron. Judge Caprio, I'm writing from prison. I've served 9 months. I have 15 months remaining. I wanted to say I'm sorry for threatening you. I was raised believing my father's power meant our family was above the law. You proved we're not. That was the most important lesson I've ever learned. Thank you for defending the Constitution, even when it meant standing up to presidential power. Respectfully, Barron Trump. If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with anyone who needs to understand that judicial independence is sacred, that no president can threaten judges, that democracy requires all 3 branches of government to respect each other's authority. Barron Trump threatened me with White House connections. I arrested him, defended the Constitution, and proved that in America, no one, not even the president's son, is above the law. Court adjourned.